Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to Room by Room, the Home Organization Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Yastra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's begin.
Welcome back to Room by Room, the Home Organization Science Insights podcast. Today's episode is all about out with the old, in the closet, which is a struggle I personally experience, and I'm sure several others do too, holding on to pieces that have remained untouched in years, hoping to breathe new life into them, only for them to remain at the back of my wardrobe, collecting dust. So to guide us through this, because clearly I shouldn't be the leading voice for this, is closet organizer and decluttering expert Shaniece Jones, who has spent time on the teams of Kanye West, Fergie, and other high-profile individuals. Hi, Shaniece. It's lovely to have you on the show. How are you going today?
Hi, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm actually doing extremely well and super honored that you guys decided to ask me on the show.
That's amazing to hear. So before we begin, I'm really curious to know what sparked your interest in closet therapy.
Oh my, I think ever since I was a little girl, I loved organizing, not knowing that it would end up being in the closet. However, I had a small stint as a celebrity wardrobe stylist. And when I should have been super stoked about getting people dressed, I was more excited about like organizing their closet, like when there was nothing to do on set. So that's kind of like how my business was birthed. Like people were like, oh my God, I love it. And then one person would like refer me to the next. So
I love that. So how did you even get started? Like, did you tell your celebrity clients like, hey, I am really interested in just I know I'm supposed to be a stylist, but I just really want to organize your closet right now. Could you let me do it? And did they just say yes?
well, most people like during the downtime, like when there's nothing to do as far as like getting people dressed, like if I see mess anywhere, like I'm always like, let me fix it, like figuring out how to fix or create a solution for it. So that's pretty much kind of like what happened. And they were like, oh, I love this. And it's like, can you do this like for my other closet? And then it just kind of became word of mouth, like a situation of word of mouth. And which is great because it's still the same way now, like how I get my business.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story. Word of mouth is always the best. And that's a great preface for our topic for today. But before we get further into detail, we love to get to know you better. So this is Have You Met Shaniece? And my first question for you is, what do you like doing in your spare time?
Oh, in my spare time, you can either catch me brunching, hitting the pavement on a run, which I have not done in like the past month because I've been super busy, or like literally I'm a homebody, believe it or not. So you can find me at home reading a book. I love a book or a good podcast.
Oh, yeah. Is there a space in your home that you are the most proud of and you love lounging in the most?
Well, my bedroom. I created an oasis in my bedroom and it took me years to get to that point, but I finally I feel like I nailed it. And it's like literally the space that I love coming home to.
Mhm. That is really such an achievement. I feel like a lot of people strive for that, but it's really difficult to create that oasis. It's surprisingly difficult because it's like, okay, well, we know the standard stuff, right? Which is ambient lighting, warm lighting, something that's clean, not too messy. But it does take a while to get to that point. So what is it about your bedroom specifically? Are there any features that you really enjoy?
Yes, so I pretty much do like a neutral, which I love neutrals. And like I have like my clock is it can play like different like nature sounds. Like if it's like outdoorsy or it's the ocean, which I love the beach. So normally when I go to bed, as soon as I come home, I hit the beach sound and it just feels like my room is the beach. And like I have like the lighting is just like perfect and my bed is comfortable. So I think the way that I did the padding in my bed, everything is just like, and I have a sea of pillows. I love pillows. So it's just like jumping on the cloud. It just feels like so peaceful and relaxing in there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I never thought of using natural sounds to create that ambiance in my bedroom, but maybe that's something that I have to look into. So far, all I've really used, in my bedroom, like green noise and brown noise, I think, for sleeping. I can't remember which is which, but all of that stuff. But it never occurred to me to even use natural sounds.
It works. It's a vibe. You gotta
All
try it.
right.
And
Yeah,
the
I've got to
candle,
try. I've got to try it for myself and I'll let you know. But outside of the bedroom, are there any household chores or activities that you particularly enjoy doing or maybe you despise the most?
oh, this is gonna sound so like duh, because she's an organizer, right? Like I love cleaning up because I always said if I ever get rich, like I'll hire a chef because I despise cooking. Okay. Like if it's not a 1, 2, 3 recipe, I'm not cooking. If it's not an air fry recipe, I'm not cooking. But when it comes to cleaning, if I turn on some good music, I light a candle, I can literally clean all day. And I feel like no one cleans the way that I clean. Like I clean like baseboards in the corners with like Q-tips. Like I am like anal because I just love doing like the fresh smell of like, cleaning supplies. It's my thing. So I love cleaning my house and I despise cooking.
Maybe it's a matter of the grass is greener on the other side or something, but I'm the complete opposite. And I have to say that I really wish that I had your passion for cleaning. I like to clean up sometimes, but I won't lie, when it is a busy day, the last thing I want to do is clean. It does not relax me at all. I love cooking, but with that also comes cleaning, and I despise that part. So maybe we could be housemates.
I'm about to say the same thing. We probably need to be like roommates. Like, okay, you cook, I'll clean, I get the dishes, that thing.
Yeah, that would be far too easy. Love cooking so much. You would have a personal cook. Yeah, but yeah, we'll chat after this. We'll chat after the podcast. Now, throughout your life, is there someone who has inspired you to this day? Is there someone that you've really looked up to as a role model?
Hmm. That is actually trying to think. There's been quite a few people that have come along my journey of living that have inspired me. Trying to think who would that person be because there's quite a few. I would definitely say my older sister who passed away in 2007. I just feel like she lived life like to the fullest. So even in her passing, I was like, well, my sister lived. Like she would go on vacation, like she would do the things that she wanted to do and did not allow anything to hold her back. So she's definitely have played a big pivotal role in my life. Someone I always looked up to even as a kid, to the point that I would try to put her shoes on and stuff toilet paper in the front to wear them. Like that's how much like she meant to me. But definitely like other leaders, like my spiritual dad. He's a pastor in LA. But like he always pulls things out of me that I didn't know that I can do, or he sees more in me than I have seen in myself to push me to another level. So there are quite a few people that have come along the journey. I feel very honored and grateful that I've been able to like have a circle of family and friends that have pushed me beyond my own limits.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that you've lost your sister, but it sounds like she's made a massive impact on your life, nevertheless, and she still lives through you. So that's really good to hear. Now, is there a course in your life that you've taken that has stuck with you to this date?
Like a class?
Yeah.
I was, believe it or not, it's going to sound crazy, right? This is the class that in college either makes or breaks like the doctors or the people that go to medical school or like, to further their degree. And it was organic chemistry. And that's like one of the classes that stuck with me and that I enjoyed because it's a combination of logic and numbers. And it's literally because I was able to get an A and A minus in Orgo 1 and 2. Like it's been kind of like my pride of armor. Like it didn't break me, although I didn't go to med school. It's like one of the courses that have stuck with me.
That's fascinating. Are there any life lessons that you took away from that organic chemistry class?
Yeah, well, Dr. Caesar was my professor in both of those at St. John's University in Queens. And I would say like the life lesson is just like, for me, it was more so if you understand the concept or if you understand like numbers, then anything is figure outable. Like you can figure things out. Like, and so if I understood the numbers and I understood like the concept and the mechanisms, like I could solve the problem.
Yeah. Well, good on you. That sounds amazing. Well, I feel like I've learned so much about you through this icebreaker section, and I'm really keen to get into this closet therapy and closet detoxing. So, the first question I have for you is could you briefly explain the concept of closet therapy? What does it mean?
Well, closet therapy kind of came about because one of my clients were like, "You're like my closet therapist." I was like, "You're actually right. I am like your closet therapist." But it's like bridging the gap between mental clutter and your physical space. So that's kind of like how I look at what closet therapy is, because I believe that the closet is one of the most overlooked spaces in your home, but yet it's the most intimate and one of the most important spaces because it's where we go to hide our insecurities. It's where we go to hide the things we don't want people to see. It's where we shove things that we want people out of sight, out of mind, but it's actually out of sight in mind. And we can dive into that later. But it's a space that I feel if you can go in there and you can face the clutter that's happening in the closet, then you can literally transform your life, like not just your life, but also your mind. And so closet therapy was developed from that concept.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was just thinking as you were talking about that the closet is such an intimate space because when you're organizing our kitchen, for example, things get expired within a couple of years and we're forced to throw them away, or there are guidelines and regulations for how long we should keep a certain ingredient for, how long a certain food should be kept for. Whereas in the closet, we essentially have all of the reign to do whatever we want with it. And with that comes a lot of keeping things that we haven't really thought of wanting to keep or wanting to throw. And we just mindlessly kind of keep it. And that says a lot about our reflective state, I suppose, because we aren't really reflecting so much on what the material things that we have. So that's a really good introduction to that. Now, the next question I wanted to ask you was what does it mean to detox the closet?
Cool. Detox. That's a word in itself. But decluttering the closet, like when you detox or declutter the closet, it means to like not necessarily people think like out with the old, in with the new, but it's like, does it represent who you are now? And does it represent where you are going or trying to go? If it's something that is of your past, like the whole point is to get rid of those things that are holding you back from who you can be, who you can become, who you are now, that may have memories that's holding you or shackling you to your past, is to let those things go so you can get lighter and make more room for what you want to come into your life.
That's exactly what I needed to hear. Admittedly, I have been trying to detox my closet for a while, and there are just a couple of things that I haven't worn in over a year, but for some reason, I hold on to it because I think, well, maybe in 6 months when it's summertime, my personality will change back again, and I will want to wear this. But realistically, I didn't wear it all summer last year, so what are the chances that I do want to wear it this coming summer? What are your thoughts on that?
You want to know my true thoughts? One, we
Yeah.
we do a virtual session together, and two, and two, I feel like you talking it out, you've already answered your own question. I feel like you know that it's like, all right, I need to let it go. Because if I have not worn it and I keep putting it in there, then it's something that's telling me like you have this disconnect between, oh my gosh, like this is the personality that I used to be. And I kind of want to go back to that where you may have completely evolved beyond that. So it's better to let it go so you can see what new personality comes out. And it gives you an opportunity to either consign it and make some extra cash to invest in the new version of yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I really didn't think about it like that, but I guess when it comes to these things, you know yourself best and you kind of have to just trust yourself. But from a scientific and human behavioral perspective, what effect does detoxing the closet have on our well-being?
Oh, so much. There's so many health benefits. And I think that's why I do what I do. Because in essence, people hire me because they're like, I just want to organize closet or I want a organized space, right? But I know the underlying benefits that when I get into this space with them and do the detox, ask the right questions, that we're actually going to be removing those things out, right? And in the end of it, like, oh yeah, it's beautiful, I love my closet, you walk in, you feel new, but like you're actually reducing your cortisol, you're reducing the stress, which is the stress hormone. So you're reducing stress, like you're saving time, you're also feeling better, you're breathing better, you may be even more inspired. Like, so there's so many other benefits that come with letting go of things. And like, once you have a streamlined and organized space, there's the health benefits that come. So like, they always say like, oh, you always see like chaos to calm. It's pretty generic, but it's true. Like you get a sense of peace. You get a sense of like, oh my gosh, like I can actually get dressed in the day. I feel inspired to like put on clothes. And you never know. There's also like I call it like the domino effect. When you dress well and you dress better, you may get a promotion at work. You may find a man, which is my goal. You may, you never know what comes, but there's so many benefits that people just look at their closet as like, oh, it's just my closet, I'll get to it later. When it's like, no, you get to the closet, you can get to a lot of other things as well.
That's a fantastic point. As you were talking about saving time, I reflected on my own recent experiences of clearing out the closets. I think I cleared about a quarter of my closet, which is like two really big Costco bags full, which is a great achievement, but still quite it's quite small. I still want to clear out more, but I do notice that I take less time to get ready because I'm not sifting through that sea of clothing and options that are what I call empty, really empty options, because I realistically not going to wear it because it doesn't represent who I am. So that does actually save me a lot of time and a lot of stress. So I can definitely vouch for that. Now, could you elaborate a bit more on the psychological benefits of having that well organized closet and how it can impact our lives positively?
Absolutely. So when you go into the closet and it's chaos, right? Because of what we see, like because we have sight, those of us who are able to see and are like, you get to see all the beautiful colors and all the things. When there's chaos, you're sending a visual stimuli to your brain saying that there's chaos, which is unfortunately, you start releasing that negative effect of cortisol, thinking that it's like flight or fight. It's like all these things that are like happening in the brain, like when you're showing all this chaos, right? But the psychological effects are like, not only when you're going in through the decluttering or you're working with someone like me that's a professional and understand and able to like kind of dig deeper into the root of like what's happening in the space, like why don't you want to let this go? Like whether it's you're grieving the loss of a loved one or you're grieving the loss of a past lifestyle or a life moment that you may have had, like letting that stuff go is going to allow yourself to release that past so that way you can literally get to whatever it is that you have, like you're inspired for the future or that the goal that you're trying to reach, right? So you have these psychological benefits of being able to have a clearer mind, being able to think clearer, being able to make better decisions, because when you have a cluttered mind, sometimes your decision making is not clear. So you're like in the space where you're like, oh my gosh, why do I feel like all over the place? Or why can't I make a decision? I often tell people before you think about like, oh my gosh, like let me organize any other part of my house, check your closet. If your closet is in chaos, your brain is in chaos. Like because this is a space you're visiting every single day. You start in your morning there, you end your night there in the closet by either grabbing your pajamas or putting your clothes on in the morning. This is where you're starting the end of your day, and you're causing yourself all these negative effects when you are operating in the chaotic state of the space.
Right. This is making my life make so much more sense now because I didn't really think of the closet as something that I look at and get affected by every single day. But now looking back on times where I've been really stressed and found it difficult to upkeep laundry days during like uni exam periods, for example, that would cause me even more stress and I didn't even realize it, which is really interesting to think about. Now, are there situations wherein your clients want to keep a certain thing that they might not want to wear anymore purely for the memories? And is this something that you have some kind of guideline to, like, is it okay to keep something and put it in the back in a storage room, for example?
That is actually a good point because you said, is there everyone, including myself, have gone through this. And no matter how many closet edits I do on myself, like I sometimes struggle with that. Like, oh, I don't know if I want to let this go because either I invested in it, like I spent money on it. So what I tend to do is like, there's like a maybe box, right? So I'll put it in a box and put it away, like whether it's at the top of my closet where I don't see it for a couple of months. And then if I pull it down, and I don't recommend doing this with more than 5 items, but like if you have somewhere where you can store like something away for a while and then revisit it in 6 months and see how, if you have that same feeling, like if you have the same feeling, then, you know, keep it for a little bit longer. If you feel like, why was I tripping over this in the first place? Like, let it go. Or if it's something that has sentimental value, I always ask the question, like, did the person who gave it to you, do they really care about this? Or do you think that this item is either going to bring the person back or it connects you to the person? And if that's the case, then take a photo of it. You can store that digitally because the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's false. So like, no matter if you're looking at the real object or you're looking at the photo, you're going to get the same emotion that you would have if it was physically in your hand or not. So
Now, is this closet detoxing an ongoing effort, or is it one and done, or maybe done in once a month, for example?
if anyone tells you it's a one and done, do not trust them, run. Okay. Like I've seen stuff like that on the internet, on social media. And I'm like, that is false. Like I do not support that statement because I feel like decluttering and detoxing and editing your closet is an ongoing thing. It's like it's would be me telling you to do it one time and then you continue on for years while you're evolving, your closet is still the same. Everything that's in your closet is still the same. We're constantly evolving, especially women, right? Like men always make the joke that, you know, I don't know who this is, not the same woman I woke up to like 2 years ago. Like we're constantly evolving. And I think with personal development happening, we're always trying to find ways to become better. And that evolves our style, that evolves the things that we like. Like we made like color one season and hated the next season. So I think detoxing is always like an ongoing thing, something that you probably can do quarterly. Or if you want us to do a run through every single month, like that's fine too if you're organizing. However, like doing a full on detox is like, is there something when I walk into the space that I feel is connecting me to my past that I don't want to be connected to anymore? So if you're doing that or you're just being more aware of that when you walk into your closet, then that's a sign that you can start decluttering. And I normally recommend not to do it alone, like call a friend, phone a friend.
Yeah. I usually have my partner on the bed and just giving me his opinion on what he thinks about a certain item, because sometimes he will be brutally honest, and I mean brutally honest about it, being like, I've literally never seen you wear that before. Do you even want it? It looks like it's torn. And we need that brutal honesty. So what would you recommend? What are the best practices that you'd recommend for a successful closet therapy or closet detoxing session?
Um, what I like to always start with is, what is your intention? Set the intention of what you want to achieve at the end. Even if it's like, you know what, I want to be able to put more outfits together. I want to make sure that I elevate my style. I no longer want to have this in my closet. Set an intention so that way you always have something to go back to. I kind of like tell my clients like, you know, what is your goal for this space? Because when I have the goal, whenever we're doing the edit and they're trying to go against the goal, I'm like, you remember what you wrote down? Oh, so that you have like this kind of like base to like kind of go off of, you know? So that is one tip that I do recommend is set the intention, write down the goal. And then the next thing is to create a vision for it, right? Like create a vision board, a Pinterest board. Like I can live on Pinterest for hours, but like, what is this new style? What do you want in your closet? No, do not limit yourself. Like, oh, my closet is so small. What is it that you want? Dream as big as you want to. Set that. And then that way you have some inspiration of like how you want it to look. Even if it doesn't look exactly like that, you can put that inspiration because that's going to inspire you in reverse. So those are like two of the top tips that I like to start off with my clients.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I personally haven't used a lot of Pinterest boards, but that's definitely something that I can imagine, like, channeling some of that Pinterest board through to my closets and giving me a much better idea of what I'm going for. And that will really help a lot as well with detoxing. Now, from what you've seen amongst your clients, what are the toughest challenges when it comes to closet therapy and detoxing?
What are the to all of it? No, the toughest is I got this as a gift. That is one of the things that I constantly hear. Or I spent so much money on this, I kind of want to let it go. Or I've had this for so many years. Like those are like some of the top three things that always come up when it's like time to detox. Or they're like, they start off, I'm ready to let's go. And then they get in and they're like, wait a minute, like, I don't know, I feel overwhelmed. Like, I'm not sure, I'm not ready yet. And I'm like, no, where's the energy that you started off with? Let's get back in here. Like, I kind of called it, it's like almost like a mini boot camp, the detox part, which I enjoy the most. But those are like some of the things that come up a lot when we're in the space.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of decision fatigue, a lot of opportunity for decision fatigue too. So, how do you encourage your clients through all of this?
Going back to the goal, going back to the mission. What is it that you said that you want? Why did you hire me? You've invested enough money in me. Like, you're going to get your dollar's worth out of this. Like, what is it? That's the goal. It doesn't feel good. One thing about change is that it never feels good, right? And so if we constantly, our brains always want to go back to making us safe. And because our brains are created and it's like programmed to think like, okay, whatever we were doing, the routines, the habits that we have, like that is the safe space. When in reality, like it could be safe, but it may not be benefiting us or serving where we're trying to go with our lives or in our space. And so I'm constantly trying to break them out of that. I'm like, it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? And I get them to say yes. And I'm like, good. That means that we're changing. The goal is to change. So like at the end of the day, as you're feeling uncomfortable, still feel the emotion. I'm very empathetic with them. I'm like, I understand this is hard. This is tough to let go. However, my goal is to get you to the end goal of what you said you wanted. You wrote it down, not me. This is what you said you wanted. So let's go. It's kind of like training in the gym, right? Like, oh my God, I want to get summer ready. And then it's like, but I want to eat the pizza. What did you say your goal was? So I just had pizza.
Yeah. You're so tough and firm, but so encouraging at the same time, and I love that. It must be so fortunate for your clients to have you helping with the closet organization. Now, on the scientific end, are there any insights or case studies from any of your past research that demonstrates the effects of implementing closet therapy techniques?
I won't say that there has been a lot of developments around like the techniques that I have done, but like when you do look at some of the research that has been done, like the benefits, the psychological benefits of having an organized space. And a lot of women like deal with depression, but when they have an organized space, a lot of that depression is reduced. So there are studies around that per se. This has been my hypothesis and my life's work. So like over time, I may have an answer for you like in another, like I've been doing this for over a decade. So maybe in another 5 years or so, like as I continue to hone in, like with each client and understand like what similarities and what research I'm doing in person with my clients, I may have a better answer for you. But there are studies around like how organized spaces help with depression, how organized spaces help with like ADHD. Like there's so many different like mental health benefits of it, as well as like obviously the beauty of having organized space. So
Well, if you ever publish any research about it, that would be so exciting, and we'll keep our eyes on you to make sure that we stay up to date on this very, very niche subject. I feel like the niche it is, the more interesting it is, to be honest.
I agree with you.
So, yeah, I'd be really excited if you ever publish any of the research and get anywhere with it. So, yeah, do keep me updated. But back to the interview, the last question I have for you is, what advice do you have for listeners who may feel overwhelmed or unsure where to start when it comes to organizing their closets for their well being?
The feeling of overwhelm is normal. So if you feel it, you're in the right spot. The way that you can overcome this overwhelm is don't feel like you have to do it all at one time. I think because you see like these decluttering shows. Like, and I love Marie Kondo and I love like the home edit, but the things are done like it looks like in 1 or 2 days, right? And that's not the reality. Like, even when I'm doing work in my client's closet, I tell them we're going to be family because I'm going to be here probably 16-hour days for probably like 4 days because I'm very intricate and detailed on what I do. So they don't have to feel the overwhelm anymore. It's my job to take that away. However, when you're trying to do it yourself, it's normal to feel overwhelmed. So break it up into chunks. Just say, you know what? I'm going to go through just this one basket that's in my closet on Saturday and schedule it. Do not tell yourself you're going to do it because it's easy to be like, I can get to it another day. Like, put it on your calendar the way that you would an appointment. Like, if you're going to set the intention, commit to yourself. Do not self-abandon. Like, do not abandon yourself for saying like, oh yeah, this is not that important, when in reality it is. Like, if you knew that this would help your health and your mental health, then you would definitely, like, you wouldn't skip therapy, right? You wouldn't skip going to the doctor for your annual appointments. Don't abandon yourself by skipping the opportunities to turn your closet into like an oasis and a sanctuary, a place of peace. So do it in chunks.
Yeah, that's a fantastic sentiment to end off the interview on. Now we move on to the practices and habits section. This is where I ask you a bit more about the everyday application of what you've just shared with us. Now, the first question I have is, what is a habit that you would practice to support your closet therapy or closet detoxing sessions? Are there any practices that you do along the way that are minor and small that can really help?
Put it back. You know what your mom used to tell you growing up? Put it back. That is one of the things, like, because of the way that I have my closet organized, like, I make sure that if I take a jacket off, my jacket, I'm not going to put it on the side of the couch or on a chair. I'm going to put it back into its space because I know where it goes, because it's organized. My closet is organized. Then I'm not wasting time like, oh, I got to clean up at the end of the night, because as soon as I take my coat off, I know exactly where it goes. I'm putting it in there. Like, most of my friends and family would tell you, the moment I'm coming in the house, my shoes are off, they're going where they go. Like, turning on the shower, putting whatever needs to go where. Like, everything has a place. And when everything has a place, it makes it easier to maintain, where you're not, I don't spend my Saturdays cleaning up like most people do, right? Because I'm doing little things during the week where it's like, okay, I may have to throw a load of laundry on a Sunday and it's an hour, but I get the rest of my Sunday to myself to go to the beach or something. So I say, just do little things, put it back. If that you can remember anything, put it back where it came from. If it's dirty, put it in the hamper. Skip the floor, put it in the hamper.
You know what? I've interviewed quite a few organizers by now, and every single one of them attests to this habit of putting things back in their place and having a place for something. So, this is probably about the 80th time I'm interviewing an organizer, and I'm convinced now. I am 100% convinced that this is what I have to do to remain organized. Now, are there any challenges when you try and put things back into place all the time? Are there any instances where you feel like, oh, it's a bit inconvenient right now to go back into the room and put this back? Or now, keeping in mind that you do like to clean a lot, so maybe this isn't the question necessarily for you, but
But I'm
have
human.
yeah,
I
that's what
am
I was hoping for.
I am human. I have those moments sometimes where I'm like, man, I'll put it over there. Like, I'll just put like my hats. I love
Yeah.
wearing baseball caps, right? So like, I will put a baseball cap and I may put it on like a chair in the kitchen. Then I'm like, Shaniece, just go put it in the basket in the closet, you know? And Mel Robbins has this, like, I think it's called the 5-second rule. Like, the moment that you think about doing something, just say, just like Nike, just do it. And so the challenge is sometimes that I have, like, but I could do it later. Like, I'm going to go into the bedroom anyway, right? Like, or I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, but I just snap into that 5-second, like, just do it. Just get up and do it. And then you can come and sit back down. So I do have those challenges where I'm like, I don't feel like it, but sometimes you don't feel like it, you need to do it anyway. Because at the end, I would be mad if I'm like doing it later, wasting time. So
That brings me a bit of relief to know that you do have these challenges sometimes. I've always wondered how people like you function, because I've always wanted to do it myself, but I never quite knew how to unlock that in myself. So that's 5-second rule is really, really helpful. I'll try to start implementing it in my life, and hopefully the audience, some people in the audience will find that helpful as well. Now, we're moving on to questions from the audience, and we have two questions today. The first one is, are there any tools or products that you'd recommend using for closet detoxing?
Oh, my favorite products. Well, one is digital, so it's Pinterest. When you have a closet detox, because you have to create your vision, right? So that's one of the tools that I recommend using. And of course, people will be like, oh, basket. So you can do like the donate toss or whatever. But like when you're doing your whole closet, my favorite are purse pillows because they keep the shape of your bags, and drawer dividers because you can keep things separated where they're not like mixing. Like not everybody likes their food mixing. I like some of my food mixing, but like it's kind of like dividing your plate.
Yeah, for sure. I get really frustrated as well when I see my stuff mixed together in a drawer. So drawer separators, I can definitely vouch for that. I attest to it. It makes your life so much like you don't even understand. It is such a minute sounding detail, but whenever you look in there, it's just satisfaction. It's pure satisfaction. There's no like, oh my gosh, all my pants and shorts are just together again. That's yeah. So I can definitely attest to that. It's really great suggestions from you. Now, the next question we have is how exactly do you decide to keep to sorry, how do you decide exactly which items to keep and which to let go of during closet detox? Is there hierarchy involved?
Hmm. I would say I'll give an example of, say, for instance, someone who has multiple jeans, right? Or jeans that are like, oh my God, these are my favorite jeans. They're Levi's, or I just got these jeans like from H&M or something like, right? Like which jean has longevity, which jean is like, look at the quality, look at, one, I like to see if things can be consigned. I'm all about in return on investment. I used to work for in finance for a hedge fund. So I'm always like, what's the return on investment on this item? So like when you're observing an item of like what to keep or what to toss, like, yes, does it fit properly? Like, is the quality good? Like if you have so many of like one color jean, decide which is the best quality, which has the best fit, which could probably get you a return on investment when you're ready to let go of it to like reinvest into a new pair of jeans. So those are like some of the things that I would ask, like when I'm like deciphering what things to keep and what things to toss. Like, can this thing be fixed? Am I actually going to get it fixed? If I need to switch the button out, am I going to waste the time to go get it? Or am I saying that to like convince myself? You know yourself better than I do. If you're not going to go get an item fixed or tailored or whatever, like stop lying to yourself and just let the item go, So like those are some of the things like you can kind of put yourself through a filter of questions to decide what to keep and what to toss. Not because grandma passed it down from your mom to you. Like, no, that is not a reason to keep it. If it has no quality, if it does not fit, like let it go.
That are such good suggestions on what to do with closet detoxing. Thank you so much for answering our audience questions. Now, for everyone listening, if you'd like to submit your questions to our guests, keep an eye out for our Instagram stories early in the week, Monday or Tuesday, 8 EST. You'll see who we're talking to and what we're talking about, and you just might hear your question on the air. Now we're moving on to the open mic section. And Shaniece, this is your chance to talk about anything that you're passionate about. And it doesn't have to be related to the topic, but if you want it to be, it can also be. So the floor is entirely yours. Please take it away.
Wow, you did not tell me I was about to have to do a whole rap. Let me see. I would tell you guys that one thing that I'm most passionate about, because I not only lost my mom a couple years ago, two, just her not living her life into the tattoo that I actually have tattooed on my right shoulder, I believe. It was the three words that she told me before she actually had a stroke. Um, she lived on the East Coast in Connecticut, which is where I'm from, Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I was living in LA, Los Angeles, and I was going to come home. And she was like, no, I don't want you to live with any regrets. Live your life. Like that is something that she told me. And then she had a stroke. And when me and my sister, eventually after a couple of years, she passed away. And when we were going through her boxes in the basement, like in those boxes were things, I would call it like her box of dreams. And it's something that I talk about often because I took things that mattered to her, which was one was her Bible. The other one was pins when she worked in corporate America. And I wear pins on some of my blazers. So it made sense for me to take a few of those. But in her Bible was a sticky note. And the sticky note was all the places she wanted to visit when she retired. Before she had the stroke, she was 2 years away from retirement. She never got to visit these places, international places. On the back of it was $1 million. She wanted to make $1 million or win it through the lottery, and to be able to give to charity, be able to give to her kids. And as we were unboxing these things, it was like my mom never got the opportunity to live her life because she was boxing up the one day when I retire, when I do this, instead of living in the moment. And so those words, live your life, is something that I live by. It's something that I tell my clients, like to encourage them, live your life and like do it with no regrets. And which is what my mom told me. And I just seen life taken too short. Like my sister passed away, my brother was murdered, then my mom passing away. So like for me, I'm always reminding myself to live my life. And that's something that I want your listeners to know. Like, don't keep holding on to the clutter. Like you told me, it doesn't have to relate, but it does in essence because it's part of life, right? Don't keep holding on to like the physical clutter or the mental clutter. Mental clutter holds you back from the things that you want to do. I've dealt with insecurities for a lot of years before I started doing therapy. I didn't think that I was good enough, all of these things. And it was nothing but fear, false evidence appearing real, holding me back from the life that I desired to live. And now I get to live my life. And unfortunately, it was after my mom's passing where I got the guts to actually continue on this entrepreneurship journey, to build a life that my mom used to dream of. So I encourage you all to do the same. Live your life. That is something I'm very passionate about.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Shaniece. That was such an inspiring story, and I'm sorry to hear that you have lost your sister, your brother, and your mom. It must have been such a grueling journey, I suppose, but you seem to have found your way, especially through closet detoxing as well. So hopefully our listeners feel some spark of inspiration to start their own journey in this. I sure know that for myself. I am very inspired to do that. So thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. If our listeners want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they go?
You can find me on the People's Internet, the Instagram, okay? And it's Shaniece M. Jones. I also have a YouTube channel, and that's also Shaniece Jones, where you can find me on YouTube. And that's normally where I hang out. Instagram is where you'll find me the most.
Amazing. We'll link those in the show notes. Thank you, Shaniece, once again for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you learned a bit more about closet therapy and closet detoxing. Perhaps you might want to listen to our next episode on while you are clearing out your closets. That's just an idea. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye. Thank you.
You've been listening to Room by Room, produced by the Home Organization Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at ho.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Yastra. Thanks for tuning in.